My name is Evelyn Hart, and I used to keep a little yellow house with blue shutters at the end of Willow Street. Neighbors knew it as a place with the tidy porch and the ceramic geese in the yard. I knew it as a prize I bought with 35 years of double shifts, packed lunches, and the kind of patience you learn feeding other people's children. Last winter the doctor called it pneumonia, but I call it a storm that came through my chest and moved furniture without asking. One minute I was stirring chicken soup. The next I was on the kitchen floor counting the dots on the ceiling while the kettle screamed. My daughter, Carla, found me when I didn't answer the phone. She cried and told me not to scare her like that again. I promised I'd try. The hospital smelled like bleach and old news. They hung bags of medicine on a silver tree and told me to breathe slow. I learned the names of the night nurses and which hallway had the quiet vending machine. Every day Carla came with a fresh cardigan and a list. They want to keep you a few more days, she'd say. I talked to insurance. I paid your gas bill online. Don't worry about a thing, Mom, just rest. Carla is my only child. She has a strong jaw and the kind of voice that makes clerks say yes. MAM before they hear the question. When she was 7, she lined up her dolls and held pretend conferences about their snack schedules. Now she lines up people. She likes a plan. She likes being the person with the curing. On the 5th day the doctor said I could go home if I had someone to keep an eye on me. Carla leaned in before I could answer. She'll stay with me, she said. Just a week or two. Safer that way. I told myself it would be nice to have company. To let someone else fuss with the kettle. I kissed the nurse's cheek and let my child drive me away from my front door. Carla's apartment had white walls and a rug that looked like it cost more than my first car. She set a bell on the nightstand and told me to ring if I needed anything. She brought me tea in a mug that said Boss Lady. She hovered. She took my purse so you won't misplace it. I told myself to be grateful. I told myself I was. On day 3 she said, Mom, about your house. The steps out front are cracked. The handrail is loose. You've fallen once already. I didn't fall, I said. I knelt without planning it. She didn't laugh. It's time. I found a lovely condo near my place. 1 floor, elevator, security, no yard to worry about. I shook my head. I'm going home. I want my porch. I want my birds. I want my kettle to scream at me in my own kitchen. Her smile went thin. Let's not be stubborn. I tried to soften my voice. I'm not being stubborn. I'm being me. That night, while she thought I was asleep, I heard her on the phone in the hallway. Yes, the paperwork is moving. No, she doesn't need to be there. Power of attorney. The hospital social worker said it's standard. We'll close fast. The words slid under the door like cold air. I sat up, and my lungs reminded me I was not in charge. I coughed until my ribs protested. When I could breathe again, I reached for my purse. It wasn't in the dresser. It wasn't in the closet. It wasn't anywhere. Carla had put it somewhere safe. The next morning a woman named Dana came by with hair like a magazine, and a smile that fit every face. Just checking in, she said, handing me a brochure with photos of bright kitchens. We specialize in smooth transitions. Think of it as a blessing, less work, more life, I asked. Who are you? Your agent, she chirped. My what? Carla laid a hand on my shoulder. Mom, don't be dramatic. We're just exploring options. Dana's eyes did a quick dance across the room, measuring me like a couch someone might buy. I folded the brochure and slid it under my leg. On the 7th day I found my shoes by the door, my sweater already washed and folded, and a cardboard box labeled keepsakes by the couch. Just the essentials, Carla said. I thought we could start packing light. You'll feel better once it's done. I opened the box. Inside were 3 framed photos, my church fan, and the recipe card for peach cobbler written in my mother's loops. I touched the card and felt my throat close. Sweetheart, I said, please stop. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I'm doing this for you. Then do it with me. For 2 days we danced like that. The slow kind where both people think they're leading. On the 3rd morning she set a folder in my lap. Sign these, she said. It's for the bank and utilities. They said it's easier if I'm on the accounts for now. Asterisk, the papers were full of small words and empty boxes. I read slow. She sighed loud. You trust me, don't you? I looked at my girl, the one I raised on clearance sneakers and casserole stretched with hope. I wanted to trust her. I wanted her to be right. I took the pen and signed where she pointed. My hands shook. The letters didn't look like mine. 2 days later she took me for a drive. A surprise, she said, squeezing my hand. We turned down Willow Street. My heart leaped like a dog that hears keys. But instead of stopping, she slowed, rolled, and kept going. I looked out the window and had to swallow twice before my mouth worked. There was a new sign in my yard. A wooden post with a bright red banner. Sold out. I grabbed the door handle. Carla, stop the car. Mom, stop. She pulled over. The engine idled like a nervous thought. I opened the door and stepped out before my lungs could file a complaint. The house was the same and not. My curtains were gone. My porch chairs were gone. The ceramic goose was still there, but it looked like it had lost weight. A moving truck sat in the driveway like a guest that didn't plan to leave. A man I didn't know carried my quilt down the steps. He smiled like it was Sunday. "Morning," he said. "We're almost done." Beautiful place. I walked past him and up the steps. Inside, the wall smelled like lemon cleaner and other people's plans. Boxes everywhere. Laughter down the hall. A child's voice asked if the room with the blue paint could be hers. A woman with a ponytail popped out of my kitchen, startled. "Oh, are you the previous owner?" We weren't expecting visitors. I leaned on the doorframe until the world behaved. "Where's my bedroom?" "Back left," she said, pointing. But please, we're still sorting. I ignored her. I walked down the hall and opened the door with a sticky latch you have to lift and pull. A man I'd never met was sitting on the edge of my bed, tying his shoe. He looked up, then down at the comforter like it had betrayed him. Sorry," he said, standing. The agent said this was all final. I could hear Carla whispering with the woman in the kitchen. I could hear the truck beeping outside. I could hear the radiator clicking like it had since 1979. I sat on the trunk at the foot of the bed and put my hand on the quilt. My husband's mother made the year we got married. It wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to the highest offer and a pen. Carla stepped into the doorway. "Mom, let's go." "What did you do?" I asked quietly. "I did what needed to be done," she said. "You'll thank me later." "I'm not sure my thanks is for sale." She lowered her voice. "Don't make a scene." I stood up. "This house has seen more scenes than you've had birthdays. It saw me teach you how to braid. It saw me and your father fight about money and make up over pancakes. It saw 2 floods, 3 graduations, and 100 potlucks. It can handle my voice." The new owners watched us like people at a play they didn't buy tickets for. I took a breath that hurt and smoothed the quilt. "I'm leaving now," I told the room, because I don't know how to stand here and not break. I turned to the woman with the ponytail. "Take care of her," I said, meaning the house. "She's old, but she knows how to love you." Back outside, I sat on the front steps. The sun was too bright for her like this. Carla crouched in front of me. "Listen. The money is already handled. Debt's cleared. I put the rest in a safe account. We'll move you into the condo by Friday. You'll see it's better." "Who signed the deed?" I asked. She blinked. "You did." "No," I said, calm as a storm. I didn't." She stood up. "Well, you authorized me." I looked at her the way you look at a child who's just told you the baby ate the homework. "Show me." Back at her apartment, she pulled the folder from a drawer. There, in neat lines, sat copies of things with my name tied to them like a balloon: a deed transfer, a power of attorney, a bank authorization. The signatures looked like mine if I had written them while someone held my wrist. "That's not my hand," I said. "Mom," she said, tired now, "we don't have to dramatize this. You were sick. You were confused. I handled it. You handled me." She pressed her lips together. "I saved you. You sold me," I said, and the room went colder than winter. She broke then. The tough shell cracked, and all the worry ran out. "I can't do this alone," she whispered. "I have my job, my rent, my life. I can't be driving across town every time you cough. The condo has a nurse on call. There are buttons. There's help. I did this because I love you." I closed my eyes. Love is a good word. People use it to sell cars and apologies. I opened them again and nodded once, not because I agreed, but because we were standing at the edge of a cliff, and I needed both feet steady before I looked down. "Where's the rest of my things?" I asked. "In storage," she said. "Safer there. Give me the key." She hesitated too long. I held out my hand. "The key, Carla." She dug in her purse and found a small tag with a number. I took it. It felt like a door I would have to open alone. That night, while she slept, I stood at her window and looked at the city lights. I made a promise to the glass and to the quiet. I would not fight my child. I would not beg. I would learn what was true, and I would lay it in the light like laundry. If the truth shamed me, I would wear it. If it shamed her, I would still wear my name. In the morning, I called Mr. Lewis, my neighbor of 25 years, who knows everybody at City Hall, and half the people who think they work there. I asked him to meet me at the storage place with a thermos and a crowbar. He laughed, then heard my voice, then said he'd be there in 20 minutes. When we rolled up the unit door, the smell hit me first: cardboard, cedar, and a note of bleach. Row after row of boxes labeled linens, kitchen, Evelyn Misk, my life, packed by a woman who thinks labels can keep a heart from spilling. We found my photo albums, my Christmas angels, my church hat with the little veil. We found the jar where I keep the recipe cards, and the ring my husband gave me when we couldn't afford diamonds and didn't need them. In the back, On a shelf sat a small fireproof box with a keyhole. Mr. Lewis looked at me. I looked back. He lifted his thermos. I brought coffee, he said. And I brought the thing that opens anything. We didn't have to use a crowbar. The second key on Carla's tag felt like it had been waiting for my hand. Inside were documents I hadn't seen in years, my husband's will, the title to my car, the letter from the bank about the mortgage being paid in full. Underneath those lay a stack of papers I had never seen, an agreement with the real estate agency, a net sheet, and a wire transfer receipt with amounts that made my stomach drop. There was also a note, not to me, to Carla, from Dana as discussed, expedited closing. Thank you for handling the paperwork on your mother's behalf. Our team appreciates clients who understand how to move. Mr. Lewis let out a whistle low and mean. You want my cousin to look at this? He asked. He sits 2 doors down from the county recorder and knows which door squeaks. Yes, I said. I want proof. And after that, I want a plan. He put his hand over mine. You're not alone, Miss Hart. I am not, I said, and believed it for the first time since the kettle screamed on the way back to Carla's. I asked him to stop by the yellow house. The new family's car was gone. The porch was quiet. I stood at the bottom of the steps and looked up at the windows that used to hold my curtains. Maybe houses don't love us, but they remember us. I could feel the way this one wanted to hold me. I put my palm on the rail and whispered, "Thank you for carrying us all this way." Mr. Lewis drove me home to Carla's apartment and helped me up the stairs like I was made of glass and history. At the door, he squeezed my shoulder and said, "You let me know which fight is yours and which one is mine." "I've got the first part," I said. "You can have the loud parts." That evening I made tea. I set the mug on a napkin because my mother raised me right. When Carla came in, she looked tired and beautiful, and like someone who believes their choice is the only bridge to the other side. "Mom," she said, "I put a deposit on the condo." I nodded. I opened the storage box. She went still. A sparrow struck the window and flew away before either of us breathed. She whispered, "I can explain." I folded my hands. The way I do when I'm asking the Lord for patience He already gave me yesterday. "Good," I said. "Start with the bank wire. Then we'll talk about the word authorization and the way my signature looks when it's mine." Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. She was a good swimmer as a child, but she had never learned how to float on top of the truth. I took a long sip and set the mug down without spilling. "And after you finish," I said, "I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do." She laughed. One short sound that didn't have a smile in it. "What can you do, Mom?" "It's done, baby," I said softly. "I have been told it's done by bill collectors, doctors, and the woman who cut my wedding dress wrong the first time. I'm still here. Don't bet against an old woman with a file folder." I stood, knees clicking their little complaints, and went to my room. I shut the door and took the pen from my purse, the one I bought on the day I paid off the mortgage, because I wanted a pen that made a smooth line. I opened a fresh notebook and wrote the first sentence on the first page. They sold my house. They did not sell my name. Then I picked up the phone and called a lawyer. The lawyer's office smelled like toner and peppermint. His name was Mr. Bowman. A quiet man with a neat beard and a clock that ticked like it knew what it was doing. He didn't pat my hand or tell me it would be okay. He slid a legal pad in front of me and said, "Tell me what happened." Slow enough that the truth can take notes, I told him. About the cough, about the condo, about the folder with my name written by somebody else's grip. I laid the storage unit key and the wire receipt on his desk like two stones I carried too far. He nodded as I spoke, not to hurry me but to keep time with what I already knew. When I finished, he pushed his glasses up and said, "We're going to move on to tracks, money and title. First, we stop anything that can still leak. Second, we cloud the title so nobody can pretend the past is settled." "Cloud the title?" I asked. "We record a list pendants and notice that there's a dispute. It doesn't kick anyone out today," he said, "but it keeps the house from being flipped or refinanced while we sort out whether your signature is yours." He paused. "We'll also file an affidavit of forgery and an elder financial abuse report. That lights up the right dashboards. Are you going to put my child in handcuffs?" I asked, my voice smaller than I like it. "Not if we can get your name and your money back without them," he said. "But we won't pay for mercy with your piece." He photocopied everything, then handed me a pen. "I need your statement in your own words. Don't worry about the grammar. Worry about the truth." I wrote like I was quilting square by square, steady stitches, no shortcuts. "They sold my house. I did not sell my house. My hand did not sign those lines. My mouth did not say those words." When I looked up, Mr. Bowman had already pulled the property record on his screen. "There's the deed," he said. "Recorded 2 days ago. Transfer signed by you via power of attorney Carla Hart, attorney in fact. Notary J. Kelsey, commission number." He read it off, then tapped his pen. "We'll call Miss Kelsey." He put the phone on speaker. A woman answered with the tired cheer of someone whose work is mostly other people's decisions. "This is James Bowman," he said. "I'm calling about a notarization last week, power of attorney for Evelyn Hart. Signed by Carla Hart." "You witnessed Mrs. Hart's signature?" Silence on the line grew a little spine. "I witnessed a signature," she said. "The daughter brought in a packet, said her mother was hospitalized, wanting to keep bills paid. The mother wasn't present. Did you speak to the mother?" Mr. Bowman asked. "No," she said. "The daughter had ID, and the form she signed the juror as attorney. In fact, Mum, your notary stamp sits under a statement that you witnessed Evelyn's signature," he said gently. "Not the daughter's. Are you saying you did not witness Mrs. Hart sign?" Now the silence had a temperature. I understood it as routine. Realtors send this all the time. They said time was of the essence, a breath. "If I made a mistake, I'll correct it. You'll provide a sworn statement describing what you did and didn't witness," he said. "Today." She agreed to quickly, the sound people make when they can see the hole and want to start filling. "Idobmer?" Bowman disconnected, met my eyes and nodded once. "Good, that's a loose nail." We drove straight to the county recorder. The clerk on duty knew Mr. Bowman by first name and frown. He filed the list pendants, the affidavit, and a duplicate of my statement. "This," he said, tapping the counter, "means no clean sale. No new loan, no quick shuffle. Anyone who touches a title sees your name waving a red flag at the bank." A woman with a badge and the posture of a metronome pulled the wire record. "Funds received into escrow, then dispersed to pay off the old mortgage and outstanding utilities," she said. "Remainder," she paused, "transferred to an account ending in 2184. Beneficiary Carla Hart." "Freeze it," Mr. Bowman said. "Authorized party?" She asked. "Court order pending," he said. "But we have an abuse report number and a notarized affidavit. You can put a hold for review under your internal policy." She looked from his face to mine and back again, weighing rules against headlines. She nodded. "Temporary hold. 72 hours. You'll need a judge to keep it longer. We plan to ask one," he said. By noon. We'd also served a demand letter to the brokerage, attention to Dana with the hair, like a plan, seeking their file, communications, and a copy of whatever authorization. Let a stranger seat himself on my bed. Mr. Bowman added words like rescission and damages in a font you could feel with your finger. "We'll visit the buyers," he said as we walked back to the car. "They may be innocent in this, bona fide purchasers. We won't threaten them. We'll inform them. If they knew, we'll know by how fast they look away." I nodded. "I want to be fair," I said. "Even if the world wasn't." We stopped by Willow Street. The moving truck was gone. A little girl's bike leaned against my porch rail, pink tassels twitching in the breeze. Mr. Bowman rang the bell. The woman with the ponytail opened the door with a careful smile. "That had learned something since yesterday, Mrs. Hart," she said. "I was hoping you'd come." Her husband stepped into view, a man whose face said he did not enjoy surprises. Mr. Bowman introduced himself and handed them copies of the filings. "There's a dispute as to the validity of the seller's authority," he said. "We're not here to undo your day, but the title is clouded while we investigate fraud. We bought in good faith," the man said. "Hart, I believe you," Mr. Bowman said. "But good faith doesn't clean bad ink. If the power of attorney is forged or improperly notarized, the chain of title is defective. It can be fixed sometimes by rescinding the sale, sometimes by compensation. I'm asking for cooperation, not confession." The woman looked stricken. "We use Dana because everyone says she moves mountains," she whispered. "She told us the mother was on board, just tired. She said the papers were standard. Mountains move," I said. "But not because you push grandmothers." The little girl peered around her mother's leg. "Are you the lady from the picture?" she asked, the one the stagers had left on the mantel to make strangers feel invited. I had left a photo of my husband and me on that shelf once. The room remembered. "I'm the lady who planted the peonies," I said, smiling at her. "They like to be talked to." Her father's shoulders dropped the smallest amount. "We'll cooperate," he said. "We'll give you the file Dana gave us." "Thank you," I said. "I don't want your child to hear angry voices in this house." Back in the car, Mr. Bowman exhaled. "They'll be fine," he said. "It's the broker who's about to have a busy afternoon." We headed to Dana's office. Soap and floor, glass walls, bowls of green apples that nobody eats. She met us in a blazer that could cut paper, and a smile that had billable hours. "Mr. Bowman," she said, as if greeting a weather system. "Mrs. Hart, I'm sorry you're upset." "I'm not upset," I said. "I'm here." He slid the demand letter across her immaculate desk. "Your file," he said. "Entire correspondence, texts, emails, the POA you relied on, the notary's info, the wire instructions, and who drafted them." She kept her smile. "We acted within standard practice. The daughter had authority. Our job is to facilitate, not parent. Your job, he said, is to verify authority when you're moving a primary residence for an elder in the hospital. Standard practice includes due diligence. Show me where you did it, she blinked. The first crack. My assistant managed the file. We'll speak with your assistant under oath, he said. Meanwhile, you'll preserve everything. If one text goes missing, we'll presume it favored us. She glanced at me, perhaps looking for an opening to go around him. I gave her none. I cooked casseroles for charity auctions in this town for 30 years, I said. I know a donated pie from a store-bought one. Don't hand me crumbs and call it Sunday. That landed. We left with a promise by close of business, and a feeling like the sky might rain on just one person back at Carla's apartment. The air was thick with unsaid. She stood by the sink with a dish towel she wasn't using. Where were you? Being the adult, I said gently. It's a full-time job. She set the towel down. The bank frozen the funds. I asked them to hold what isn't yours. Her eyes filled and she didn't let them spill. Mom, I'm not the enemy. You're my child, I said. That's harder than being an enemy. Enemies are simple. Children come with history. We sat. I poured tea because my hands needed to measure something. She stared at the steam like it might spell mercy. I can explain, she said again. I believe you can, I said. But explanation is not the same as permission. Did you sign my name? She lifted her chin a notch. I signed for you. Did you ask me? You would have said no. Then no was the answer, I said. We don't counterfeit consent because we're sure we deserve it, she flinched. I was scared and I was sick, I said. Neither of us gets to rob the other because her fear has better shoes. She pressed her palms to her eyes. I don't know how to fix this. You start with telling Mr. Bowman the truth, and you keep telling it, I said. You give back what isn't yours to keep. You call Dana and tell her if she moves mountains by rolling mothers down them, she can enjoy the view from court. She almost smiled. You always did like a speech. I like the part where the speech turns into steps, I said. My phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Bowman, notary affidavit received. Confirms mother absent. Broker file incoming. Then another. Judge available 8 a.m. tomorrow for temporary order. He added a thumbs up I did not know lawyers were allowed to use. I looked at my daughter. We have court in the morning, I said. You're coming, her mouth opened. Will I be? I don't know, I said. But I do know the truth sounds better in your mouth than in someone else's. She nodded small. Okay, that night I slept on the couch, not because the bed wasn't soft, but because I wanted to watch the window slide from black to gray and back to honest day. Somewhere around 3 I thought of my yellow house, my not house, and how the radiator clicked, like it was clearing its throat before singing. I wondered if it was warm enough for the peonies to think about trying. At 8 a.m. the courtroom smelled like paper patience. The judge had the kind of face that looks kinder when you don't like to it. Mr. Bowman laid out the filings, the notary's confession, the broker's emails, the wire. My statement in plain words. Carla stood beside me with her jaw working through a prayer. Dana sat to roast back, pretending to read her phone like it owed her money. The judge asked me a few questions. Easy ones: name, address. Did I sign this? Did I authorize that? I answered like I was reading my own grocery list. Then he turned to Carla. Ms. Hart, did you present yourself to the notary as your mother? She swallowed. No, Your Honor. I presented the packet and signed as attorney in fact. Did your mother grant that power? She looked at me once fast and then back at him. She didn't know she did, she said, voice barely there. I had her sign forms when she was sick because I thought it was necessary. He nodded slowly. That last sentence is the one you will live with, he said. For now. The court issues a temporary restraining order preventing any further disposition of funds and orders preservation of all records. The list pendens remains. We'll set a hearing on rescission. Counsel, confer on interim arrangements for possession. He banged the gavel the way people end a chapter outside. The air had the clean-edged mornings get when rain is still thinking about it. Mr. Bowman shook my hand. You were perfect, he said. You didn't perform. You testified, I exhaled. What happens next? We negotiate, he said. Often in cases like this, the broker's insurance writes a check, the buyers get made whole. And the seller, he looked at me, gets choice. Sometimes that choice is a house back. Sometimes it's compensation and a different kind of peace. I'll listen to both, I said. But I won't be hurried, he smiled. If patience were currency you'd own the bank. That afternoon, Dana called Mr. Bowman. He put her on speaker. Her voice had lost some gloss. Our carrier is prepared to discuss a settlement, she said. We request a meeting. Tomorrow? He answered. Bring your file and your apology. She almost managed to laugh. I'll bring the file after the call. Carla stood at the sink with that dish towel again. Mom, she said, if they offer money, why not take it? Buy a place near me. Start fresh. The house is full of ghosts. Ghosts are just memories with bad lighting, I said. My house is full of a life that remembers my name. But I'll consider what keeps my peace, not what calms your calendar, she nodded. Okay, we were quiet. Then she said, I called the hospital social worker. I told her what I did, she said I meant well and did wrong. That's about the size of it, I said. I'm sorry, she said. The way a grown woman says it when she has no ribbon to tie around it, I know, I said. Be sorry with your steps. That's how it counts. That evening, I walked with Mr. Lewis to Willow Street. We didn't go up the steps. We stood at the curb like two people admiring a painting they used to own. The little girl's bike was gone. A porch light clicked on with a timer I had set back in 2004. Whatever you choose, Mr. Lewis said. This street's got room for it. Thank you, I said. For the thermos and the crowbar. He grinned. Everybody has a cousin and a crowbar. Knowing when to use which is a trick. Back at the apartment, I opened a fresh page in my notebook and wrote, a signature is a promise in ink. When someone forges yours, they don't just steal your house, they try to steal your voice. So you speak quiet, clear in court ink. I closed the book and set it next to the phone. Tomorrow would be for insurance men, terms, and numbers that pretend to measure what a porch swing is worth. Tonight was for breathing without counting. Outside, the city hummed. Somewhere, my radiator clicked a song it had taught itself. I couldn't hear it, but I could feel it steady, stubborn, mine. The settlement meeting took place in a room with glass walls, and a table long enough to make people feel small. On one side sat Dana in a blazer that could slice bread, her attorney, and a man from the insurance carrier whose smile was practiced and tired. On the other side sat the buyers, the ponytail woman, and her husband with a lawyer, who looked like a youth pastor on weekdays. Mr. Bowman sat beside me, calm as a courthouse step. No coffee, just water. Everybody wanted a clear throat. Dana's lawyer started with words like efficiency and standard practice. Mr. Bowman responded with notary affidavit, elder financial abuse, list pendants, and a copy of the judge's temporary order. The carrier man cleared his throat. We're here to resolve, not relitigate, he said, sliding a folder across the table like a peace offering. To pathways, he laid them out clean and numbered. Option A, rescission, unwind the sale. Insurer returns the buyer's full purchase price. Pays are moving, closing costs plus a stipend for disruption. D reverts to me clean. Title company eats the mess. Brokerage takes the reprimand. Notary takes the class. Funds wired back into an account under a court-protected trust with me as trustee. Option B, compensation. Keep the sale. Make the harm whole. My net proceeds returned plus damages, legal fees, and an additional settlement for the forged authority. Buyers keep the house with clean, insured title. Broker's carrier pays. Broker apologizes on paper with ink she can't edit. The buyer's lawyer glanced at me. The ponytail woman had her hands clasped like she was holding a bird that might spook. We didn't know, she whispered. We would never. I know, I said. You bought a house. You didn't buy a story. Mr. Bowman put a hand near mine, not on, just near. Mrs. Hart has a right to her home, he said, steady. She also has a right to choose peace. They all looked at me then. People love to talk about rights until the person who has them starts using them. I pictured my yellow house the way it used to be, curtains I ironed on Saturdays, a trunk with quilts that still smelled like my mother-in-law's cedar chest, a radiator that clicked its little song. I also pictured a pink bike with tassels, a small voice asking if the blue room could be hers, and a young family who had already learned where the floor creaks. I took a breath that went down clean. I want the thing you can't sell me, I said. My name back and my piece forward. I won't approve that little girl to replant myself in a memory. I turned to the buyers. Keep the house. Keep her safe. Keep the peonies watered. Talk to them, they like it. The ponytail woman covered her mouth for a second, then nodded with wet eyes. Her husband said, we will, like a promise you sign with your days. I looked at Dana. You will pay what it costs to make this right, I said. All of it. Not just the math. You like the math, that's true. Mr. Bowman outlined the figure. It was not small. It included refunds, fees, my legal costs, a tidy sum labeled forgery damages, and something he called *** future quiet, ***. Money set aside in my new trust so nobody could say emergency and reach for my pockets again. Additionally, he said, brokerage issues a written apology to Mrs. Hart and the buyers, and funds community education for notaries and agents on elder transactions. 1 year. Your logo can be tiny, Dana's lawyer swallowed. The carrier man stared at the ceiling tile like he was reading the policy terms up there. Finally, he said, we can live with that, and the notary. I asked, disciplinary review, Mr. Bowman said softly, and retraining. Consequences without tumbling her whole life, unless the state decides otherwise. Good, I said. Let the lesson be long, not cruel. We signed in stacks. We initialed boxes that wanted initials. Dana's hand shook once where the page wobbled. She steadied it with a breath and a look that said she had finally found the edge of herself. Outside the glass room, the world didn't clap. It just hummed the way fluorescent lights do, steady and indifferent. That's alright, some victories are meant for kitchens, not stadiums on the sidewalk. The ponytail woman touched my arm. Would you come by next spring? Show me where the peonies like the morning? I will, I said. Bring a spade. I'll bring a story. The money arrived like a river that learned its manners. Mr. Bowman helped me set up a revocable living trust in my name with a successor trustee who won't be charmed by anybody's calendar. Who do you choose? He asked. Mr. Lewis, I said. He owns a thermos and a crowbar and knows which drawer squeaks at City Hall. We recorded the trust. We moved accounts. We closed doors I didn't know were open. We left my front door ready for whatever home I chose next. Carla hovered at the edge of it all like a child who sent a baseball through a neighbor's window and is waiting for police and pie. She came to my little table with a napkin folded right and hands she didn't know where to put. I signed a statement, she said, eyes on the grain of the wood. Everything. No excuses. Good, I said. Now we build a life that doesn't need statements. I'll find us a condo that, she started. I held up a hand. No, I said gently. I will find me a home. You can carry boxes and opinions, but not the pen. She bit her lip. You don't want the yellow house back? I looked past her to nothing and everything. I want what that house gave me, belonging, I said. I can plant that in new dirt. 1 week later, I stood on the porch of a small brick cottage 2 blocks from Willow Street. 2 steps up, sturdy wood rail kitchen window that caught the afternoon like it had been saving it. A front room big enough for my quilt trunk and a shelf for recipe cards. A cat in the neighbor's window judging me kindly. I liked being judged kindly. The realtor, a different one with shoes that understood sidewalks, handed me the keys and said, Welcome home, Miss Hart. I unlocked a door nobody had opened for me. The air smelled like paint and maple. I made a list on the counter. Curtains, kettle. A rug that doesn't cost more than a car but feels like it tried. I called Mr. Lewis and told him to bring the thermos but leave the crowbar. I texted the ponytail woman, peony lesson, April, that evening. Carla arrived with a box marked kitchen stay. She set it on the counter, peeled the tape back, and pulled out my kettle, the dented one that whistles like it's laughing. She didn't ask where to put it. She looked at me first. Here, I said, pointing to the back burner. Old habits, she nodded, set it down, and opened the cabinets like walls she had permission to touch. Mom, she said, voice soft as someone knocking. How do I make this right with you? Steps, I said. Not plans. Boundaries, not rescue. I slid a paper across the counter. Here's our policy, she read, nodding. No access to accounts. No signing for me. No real estate talk unless I ask. 2 dinners a week where we talk about anything but money. Therapy for us both, hers for control, mine for letting go without falling. She smiled. The kind that learned how to be small on purpose. I can live with this, you can thrive with this, I said. The kettle sang the way it always has, confident, a little bossy. We stood shoulder to shoulder, 2 women washing 2 mugs. Water running over our hands like a truce you can touch. Spring came like forgiveness, slow at first. Then everywhere. I planted new peony roots along the fence. The ponytail woman brought a clump from my old yard wrapped in burlap and gratitude. Her little girl held the trowel like it was a magic wand. We named the blue room Evelyn. She said solemnly, It makes the house remember. It already does, I told her. Dana sent the apology letter with the insurance check, precise, court approved, stamped with words that can't be shrugged off. I read it once, then folded it into my file under done. The notary mailed me her affidavit and a note that said I'm learning the hard way. But I am learning. I put that one in the drawer labeled people because names should live with mercy. Carla kept her steps. She slips sometimes the way folks do when their love is a leash they mistake for a hand. We learned to say try again without making it a sentence. On Sundays we walked Willow Street with paper cups of coffee and pointed out dogwood blossoms, like they were fireworks. On Thursdays she sat at my kitchen table and listened to stories about the patients I used to feed at the hospital and the casseroles that stretched magic out of noodles. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes I did. Mostly we just poured more tea on the first truly warm day. I took my notebook to the porch of the brick cottage and wrote this with a pen. That still makes a smooth line. They sold my house while I was counting ceiling dots and calling it pneumonia, but they did not sell my name. I kept that. I set it on a new threshold. The key turned because the hand was mine. Forgiveness is a gift. Access is a policy. Belonging is something you plant. Then I closed the book, set it under the sugar bowl, and watched the street learn my footsteps. The kettle whistled. The breeze pushed the curtain and then apologized. Somewhere 2 blocks over, a radiator clicked a song I used to know by heart. I smiled in its direction. I didn't go back to live in the yellow house. I went forward to live with myself. I didn't notice the day the cottage started calling me by my first name. Maybe it was the morning I hung the curtains and they fell right. Maybe it was the Sunday the neighbor's cat decided I was furniture. But sometime between winters, last cough and spring's first courage, the room stopped echoing and started answering back. Carla learned how to knock with her mouth before she knocked with her knuckles. "Can I come in?" She texted from the sidewalk, even when the door was open. Most days I said yes, some days I said tomorrow. Both of us learned the difference between love and access. On Thursdays we cooked in silence the way good choirs rest between lines. She chopped, I stirred. When her hands got bossy, I passed her the written policy like a potholder. We laughed more than we didn't. Once, when the kettle sang, she said, "I almost put this on the front burner." "You almost did a lot of things," I said. We both smiled. Then she reached for 2 mugs instead of 1. That's what repentance sounds like in a kitchen. In April, the ponytail woman, her name is Maya, I asked, brought peonies from my old yard wrapped in burlap and apology. Her little girl hopped from foot to foot with a trowel as if the dirt were an invitation to dance. "Where do they like to breathe?" Maya asked. "Morning light, afternoon shade," I said. Like people who know their limits, we tucked the pink roots into their new bed. The girl patted soil with both hands in solemn authority. "We call the blue room Evelyn." She told me, "It's the quiet room." "Good," I said. Houses need a place to think. That afternoon I walked past the yellow house on purpose. I stood at the curb and listened. It sounded like it belonged to the people inside. That's all I wanted for it, and for me. Dana sent her letter. It was all the right words in the right order. It still managed to feel like paper learning humility. The notary mailed me a second note after her class, 3 sentences that said, "I understand now. And I'm sorry, and I won't do it again." I put her name on the page in my notebook titled People I hope to meet only at the grocery store, smiling. Mr. Bowman stopped by once with strawberries and a grin that tried to hide relief. "Feels closed," he said. "Trust funded. Title clean on what's yours. You've got guardrails now." "I've got a spine," I said. "The guardrails are for everyone else." Mr. Lewis wheeled my quilt trunk in on a dolly and leaned his thermos on it like a trophy. "You call?" he said. "I come." "I know." I told him if loyalty paid interest. We'd both retire fancy. On Mother's Day, Carla brought me a frame with a photo I didn't know anyone had taken. The 2 of us planting the first peony at the cottage fence. My hand on the root ball, her hand resting on mine without directing it. The caption she tucked behind the glass said, "Belonging, planted, not assigned." "Do you forgive me?" she asked. I steady, hands empty. "I forgave you," I said. "The day I chose the cottage. What we're practicing now is trust. It renews monthly." She nodded. "I can pay the rent." We laughed and cried and wiped our faces with the same napkin. Later she took the napkin home and washed it because that's how she says I remember. In June, Maya invited me to the little girl's birthday cupcakes on the porch. A blue ribbon on the mailbox, chalk crowns on every step. I stood by the peonies and told a circle of 7-year-olds, "That flowers are just shy fireworks." They clapped like I'd invented summer. When I left, the girl hugged my knees and whispered, "The Evelyn room says good night." I whispered back, "Tell it to be brave." When the heat settled in and the air learned to carry thunder, I slept with the windows open and the fan set to just enough. Sometimes, very late, I'd hear a Radiator to Streets Over click its old song. I'd smile into the dark and thank the years for not letting bitterness pay rent. On a soft evening after church, Carla and I sat on the steps with lemon bars and a little tin box of the kind of truths you only open after dessert. "I thought control was love," she said. "I thought endurance was love," I answered. "Turns out love is a lot of listening and a few good locks," she laughed. Then she got quiet like a pond when the wind forgets to push it, you know. What scared me most? What? That if I didn't manage you, I'd lose you. I touched her shoulder. "Baby, the only way to keep me was to let me be mine." We watched a neighbor boy wobble past on a 2-wheeler, while his father jogged behind with a hand near the seat. Not touching, that's a sermon that doesn't need a pulpit. The first cool day of September, I wrote 3 lines in my notebook and put the pen down like a gavel. A house is a chapter. A name is the book. Keep your pen. I slipped the notebook under the sugar bowl. That's where I keep things I don't want to lose, recipes, wisdom, the kind of courage you measure by teaspoons. People sometimes ask if I miss the yellow house. I miss the version of me who lived there, her stubborn hope, her favorite window, the way she knew which board creaked and didn't mind. But missing isn't the same as wanting it back. Missing is what a good past deserves. Wanting my life to keep being mine is what a good present requires. On the day the first frost kissed the peony leaves, I made soup and called Carla to bring bread. We ate with our elbows on the table like the rebels we are. After she washed, I dried. The kettle sang, the rooms answered, the cottage said my name again, and I said it back. Before bed, I stood at the door and looked out at a street that had memorized my steps. I thought about the nurse who set a bell by my hospital bed. I thought about a sold sign that didn't sell me. I thought about how easy it is to confuse help with handling. Then I turned off the porch light and whispered the only benediction I ever fully believed. Forgiveness is free, access is a policy, belonging is something you plant and water yourself. I slept like a woman whose key turned because the hand was hers.